I want to move now into the next slide, please, and into the way we've divided the evening into 4 different categories. And we really want to start at the beginning with the concept and how things get developed. The way I've kind of organized it is from the point of view of an IP owner or a content creator who's navigating their way through this new world. So for this question of from concept to development, pretending that I'm an IP developer or an IP owner who's eager to bring my idea to television in some respect. And I want to know how I can be smart, how I can be strategic about choosing the platform or platforms that are best suited to my intended audience, my content. And as I said, we're going to launch each section with a short video. This first one that we're going to have is from Nick Walters. Nick is the CEO of Hopster, which is a UK-based subscription VOD platform. It's launched in the UK. It also just launched in Ireland, as you'll hear him talk about. But what's interesting is in some ways they've acted more like a traditional broadcaster. They enter competitions as Channel of the Year. They went to the British Board of Film Classification and asked to be rated in the same way that broadcast channels are rated so that they could say to parents, we are like a channel. So I asked Nick to speak to us just a little bit about what they see as the biggest differences between their SVOD model and the traditional telecast model. Let's take a look at what Nick had to say.
So when we think about the differences between a digital platform like Hopster, the platform that I run, and a conventional TV channel, I think the first thing we should say is it's not really about opposition. Certainly at Hopster, a bunch of us used to work in kids TV. We license loads of great kids TV shows. We love great kids TV. And although we've put ourselves up for some quite kids TV channel-like things, like the Best Channel Design Award, we're really proud to be in company with people like PBS who've done amazing stuff and who we all grew up really respecting and thinking were amazing services. So I don't really think it's about there being an opposition between conventional kids, broadcast TV, and digital. Where I do think is that digital is an evolution, it's a chance for us to do something different. And that comes with both opportunities and challenges. As a challenge, when you launch a broadcast kids TV channel, if you've done your job properly, you don't start from zero. You have some distribution, you're on a broadcast frequency, you kind of know that you'll probably get some viewers. As a digital platform, we start with nothing. On the day we launched Hopster, we had 0 users, 0 subscribers, no one knew about us. We had to go build that from scratch. And that's really hard work, and it increases the risk. It increases the possibility of failure. But what it does mean is when we find an audience, when we find a user, we know that that audience really likes us. We know that they're buying into a completely ad-free environment. We know that they're buying into what we do in terms of mixing videos with games. And we know that the parents are buying into that choice that we can offer versus or different from conventional TV. The second thing that I think is really important about digital is it has enabled us to increase the speed, increase the pace at which we can change and develop and experiment and grow. And 2 examples of that. We just launched in Ireland. If I'd launched in my Nickelodeon days, if I'd launched a new TV service in a new country, we needed a satellite, we needed a playout chain, we needed people to run those. We were talking a big, serious technical operation just to be in that territory. When we launched in a new territory with Hopster, we went 1 click in the App Store and we were launched in that new territory. So we can get to market faster, we can get out to more people faster. Similarly with content commissioning, we've started working on our own Hopster originals. We're not going to be in a 2 or 3 year development cycle for Hopster for our original content. We're going to be able to turn that around in months. We're going to be able to get it out there quickly. And to my earlier point, when we get it to families, we're going to know that they like it or they're not going to like it, and we can quickly make changes based on that. And I think what you are going to see is the whole pace of commissioning, of experimentation, of development start to accelerate as digital platforms move the game. And I think that's a really exciting thing that digital brings to the world of kids TV.
Does anyone have an immediate reaction to anything that he's said there? I've got plenty of questions, but is there anything that anyone just heard in that they want to react to instantly?
You push a button and it's out there, because when I'm working on these big sets, I'm like, what are all these people doing? Why is this taking so long? So it's really hard sometimes for YouTubers to understand, and we're just like, well, why can't we just post it now? And so if I shoot something that was a week ago, that's already old news for me. So if I don't shoot it that day, post it that day, and talk about it, for me, that's old news. So
Do you think it's the
completely
same
different.
for kids as well? Are they demanding new content, new content, new content?
Yeah, they're even worse.
Yes.
Please, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. We're seeing a demand for new content more than ever. And, one thing that we're doing at Nickelodeon that I think we're getting that content out a little bit faster is we have daily programming, which is a format that allows us to tell stories that are more soapy or more serialized, and we can get them out faster and quicker as soon as possible. And then, there's still a challenge in animation because animation does take a long time and takes a village. So, we're facing this challenge every day in everything that we do. It's very top of mind for sure.
I would say kids nowadays are very much ahead of the curve. We at Stylehaul, more often than not, I find inspiration and I discover trends by looking at what our influencers, our talent is doing. And that, within, as Justine said, within a couple of months, those actually become the topics and the trends people are talking about.
Much more rapid iteration.
Absolutely.
Michael.
I want to talk about how my kids, who are obviously my test group for everything I do, and are completely blasé about everything that happens in this world, whereas they should be, because this is how they grow up, this is where they live. They're not interested at all in how, whether or not it comes from TV, what channel it's on, or anything like that. They haven't watched an episode of broadcast television since they were born, which is a long time ago now. But that's how they live. And what I find most interesting is let's talk about Fred Rogers for a minute. A total icon, an amazing man who reached millions and millions of children, including probably a lot of us who are older. There is a substitute for that man, and his name is Stampy Longhead. And this is what's so interesting to me, is to find these points of connection between what it is that kids love, respond to, and really react to, and get engaged with. It's a completely different format. Stampy Longhead is a gamer on Minecraft, right? He has, I think he's up to now, at least his last count, he's at 175 million views a month. And these are staggering numbers, right? Staggering numbers of children are watching this every day. He's at, right now, I think he's at 250 million subscriptions, which means obviously that there's a link to whatever he's loading up and kids are watching that. But the element that still is most interesting to me, that why I make this connection, is because he is a personality, he's a cat in a world that is 8-bit, and he has a connection with children that is like Fred Rogers. And that, to me, is what I think is what that gentleman was talking about. It is not that everything's going away and everything's becoming new. It is that what works for us as human beings, especially for children, always works in the same way. And that, to me, is so interesting, because that's where I like to see, at least for Maker, which is a huge MCN, which has millions and millions of subscribers and viewers. But why are they doing this? Why are they connecting to these people? What is it about Justine that millions of people want to see your life and be with you? And it is that intimacy and that connection that is made through this platform that is unlike what has come before. And I think that is
Fred Rogers
I
connection,
think that
it
can
sounds
be
like
true for every platform. I mean, it's about making an emotional connection with a relatable character in a deep and dynamic way. I mean, that makes that's content. That's successful hit making content comes from that place, and it also comes from a creator with a point of view that is unique and something that the audience or the fan or the kid has never seen before.
But
it's an
than
emotion.
Fred, it hasn't necessarily been the tradition with children's television in recent years of that ability to look through a camera and make a one-to-one connection with
Absolutely.
a child.
That is definitely a major change
more
for
what
sure.
we're seeing, it sounds like, what you're saying.
But I do.
What I've seen though is that some children are actually connecting through this emotional connection of a character, but others are more interested in mastering how to do Minecraft. So they're actually watching other kids building and learning about Redmine and drilling down on that. So we have to think that that now that we can actually really see this, there's so many different types of mindsets that are participating, and we can provide, since it's so easy to make this content, we can provide a variety of different assets all in the same subject matter and address multiple different profiles all at once.
One thing that I do just personally love to see with my kids is the discovery of brands and IP that this IP does live across platforms, but also discovery of some classic IP as well. I love when my kids come up to me and ask me, "Hey, Dad, have you seen like Tom and Jerry, like this new Tom and Jerry,
That's the best.
this new Scooby Doo?" And they're showing it to me like, "Wow, like this is like," and you know what's new is old and what's old is new, and there is that discovery piece as well.
New habits actually with families. The thing we do in the morning every morning is actually watch a YouTube video while we're eating breakfast, you know, and it's like this tie of thinking about music, because my son's a musician, so thinking about music and talking about the storylines in how it's being told through video now and not just through the oral.
I think it's a trust thing too, whereas a lot of these kids are watching these shows and they see actors, where we grew up watching like Friends, and now they're watching Friends, but we're actually all friends and we're not actors, so they're relating on a whole nother level, and you'll hear them say hashtag relationship goals, and they're like, that's to them, is they want to have that friendship that you have with another person, and it's actually real.
I think one of the interesting things too that Nick brought up was this whole idea of starting at zero is a really interesting piece, because you know you do have a lot of built-in audience, and so how do you really kind of get into being that, let's play video content creator that everyone at the playground is talking about. So we talk about this whole idea of like share a playground, and what brands, what personalities are really resonating within the word of mouth within for kids. And it's so different with YouTube, because you're right, they really get into this whole personality aspect of it, where it is much more of a relationship, and they definitely see a lot of the interaction of what's going on. Now, they're not interacting themselves, or they shouldn't be in most cases, because they're not old enough, but they definitely have a really rich response when you see it at the kitchen table at breakfast or whatever, and the kids are kind of exploring and want to, can I see that, Dad, to go ahead and see, this person I heard about yesterday at the playground. So, building that audience through word of mouth and what's happening there is so key, because it's not so built in with all the freedom of access that you have here. So it's really hard to be found and kind of build out an audience and start it going. So it's fascinating when it really does finally hit that stride.
So that's a perfect opportunity to bring it back to the fictional IP owner that I was talking about before. So I'm that IP owner who does not have anyone out there following me right now. How do I decide where my property is best going to be suited? Is this Nickelodeon? Is this Netflix? Is this Amazon? Is this YouTube? How should I be thinking through what I own and figuring out where to take it?
Can they make it themselves? It would be the first question probably to ask yourself. Like, if you can make it yourself, make it yourself. Like it's all about the execution and putting the execution first, and that's our development process, is giving as many people opportunities with our funding to put the execution first and make something that's suitable and entertaining for Nickelodeon. But for those that somehow we've missed, if they have the means to make it yourself, make it yourself.
I also think it's sorry. Yeah.
I think it's about the content, and I think you should always think about the content first. I think you have to be passionate about what you're doing, whether you're creating content for YouTube or whether you're creating content for any platform. You have to have that passion, that authenticity. I think it's important to think about what audience you're trying to reach, and I would say last you should think about what the distribution is, because the medium of distribution, the time of distribution, the strategy, whether it's a network or an SVOD platform or a new platform, that changes basically by the minute. So if you spin your wheels and really try to think about creating a piece of content for a distribution platform, you're ultimately going to miss the point, and that's going to really translate to the audience.
I also think it's not always a zero-sum game. brand and IP can live across platforms, and having content that's malleable, that can live on Nickelodeon, on YouTube, on other platforms at the same time, I think is a reality that you get today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead. I was going to say, I would agree with that in that, we make IP, not TV, really. And that IP can be sparked from various different places, and we have an ecosystem that we're able to move those through. So it could start as a movie, and we can make it as a movie that can become a TV show, that become a game. It could start as a game and become a short, become a TV show, become a movie. It could become a TV show that's a game, that's a, all of these things are happening, and we're able to do that across. It could, it could be a toy. It could be like so many. That's another piece. People, kids, a 4-year-old will learn about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the T-shirt that his preschool friend is wearing before he's ever seen the TV show. So that's another place that is tangible, that is creating a connection to a piece of IP that we're not talking about. That's another place as well.
Yeah, we at the lab, we actually have been studying new screens and kind of thinking, well, what is TV? In 2013, we had actually developed what is TV? Where is it? It can be anywhere, right? And so for the past year, we've been developing prototypes around tangible storytelling, right? Trying to create content that's around 3D printing. Going back to you saying that can they make it, right? 3D printers are getting into almost every Staples store, and kids can turn around and will be able to build a toy as much as they'll be able to make a copy of a paper in the next year or so here at Staples. And so how does that change the way we design content when you can have the kids actually add elements of the story into the larger IP that you're developing?
Well, they don't care about platform either. So a lot of the examples that you're talking about is, I could go ahead and, be on a Nintendo 3DS, play a video game, watch a YouTube channel. I could go back to my iPad, play a mobile video game, bounce around Netflix and all these other things. So the partnership of where you're actually going to originally distribute doesn't have much of an impact anymore, because distribution could be so multi-channel and be the same kind of content.
I also think that to sort of temper the discussion a little bit, you really have to understand the platform on which you are launching anything. YouTube is a very different platform from television. And to give you an example, one of the most successful formats on YouTube is a pair of hands unboxing toys, right? There's no way that a television executive, which I was, could ever come up with a concept like that. That is... it's just, this comes from the pure place.
I totally did 10 years ago, but.
Yes, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
Nobody bought it then, I don't know.
But what is so interesting to me, coming from that world where a bunch of execs used to sit around and judge stuff and look at stuff, is that a woman named Disney Collector BRA, who's the second biggest YouTuber in the world, sat down out of the passion of her heart. She loves toys. She put up a little camera and a little tiny green screen set and opened toys. And because she wanted to show this to people, and I have no idea why it's so popular. I don't think anybody, not even Malik, can tell us that. But Justine can.
Okay, so before I buy anything, I want to know what the packaging is going to look like, if I can carry it myself, and what is all going to entail. So anytime I buy a TV or anything, I always Google and look for unboxings. So these little kids are looking for the same thing, because
right.
if this one doesn't look that fun to unbox, let's go check out the other one, because I think I want this one instead. So they're kind of living through this woman who, I remember growing up, which is the best part about being an adult, because as long as you can buy it yourself, you don't have to ask your mom if you can have it. So being younger, you would have to choose between this video game. You couldn't have all of the video games. So being able to kind of just enjoy that unboxing and see the hands, and these kids feel like they're doing it themselves. So
and even more than that, I totally agree with you. I think that there's everything that kids watch have some kind of relatable human connection to what it is that they're passionate about. When people are watching an unboxing, it's literally like sitting with your friend and unwrapping a gift, right? Which everybody can relate to, and not just because of Christmas, but it's that discovery with someone that you really like and trust, and exploring a toy, whatever it is that's being unboxed, But that is the innate human desire to like uncover something, to explore something, is what is at the root of all of this. So it's a long way of saying, when you go out with your content, it really has to come out of your passion. If you're an animator, it is something, you can draw a stick figure on YouTube and you've got dick figures, right? Brilliant content. It's the idea the idea is that's the platform where the idea matters more than anything else. It's not the quality of the execution at all. It is the idea and finding your passion and finding the people who are passionate about the same things.
Can I add just one quick thing to that, and to connect it to your original question as well? I think one of the differentiators about YouTube is that it's a place of channels, and it's a place where passions can be developed on channels and audiences can be developed on channels. So whether it's unboxing and you subscribe to that channel and you'll get a lot more unboxing videos, whether it's Stampy and you'll get a lot more Stampy, whether it's even nursery school rhymes, which is a great category on YouTube. The ability to really nurture and develop an audience that's retargetable, remarketable, and that's connected to that creator, I think is unique.
So I want to make sure we get to all 4 categories, but I have one question that I really just want like a 30-second answer to, but it's worth much more than that. And that is, you've talked some about the ability for content to exist across multiple platforms. It strikes me it can be very easy to get seduced by that opportunity and to spread your money, spread your creativity too thin. How do you come to someone with a multi-platform strategy, but that doesn't try to be everywhere?
I think you have to be very strategic about it. I think you have to offer something unique and different to the audience in all the various different platforms while maintaining the key message. I think you also have to be very strategic about how you release it, and again, keep the conversation going.
This really goes to transmedia storytelling, and I think the heart of what makes a really excellent transmedia storytelling is you don't start with one plot. You build the world, right? You think about, okay, I have this 10 by 10 grid, and what does living look like in that 10 by 10 grid? What does transportation look like? What does health look like? What does education look like? Who are the people that live here? And you build all of the kind of characteristics of that space, and from there, you can say, oh, and these people would talk about this story. And with that transportation issue, here's another story that will emerge. And then you start finding once you build the world and you see all these different stories emerge, you start realizing that there are certain platforms that have key characteristics that would be best for that part of the story.
Exactly right. And why I think that's so important is that's how the young people, the kids, are looking at it. I remember with my oldest son, he was doing something wrong, and I gave him a punishment that you can't watch this show anymore. And he didn't watch the show on television, but then I saw him watching it on YouTube. I said, you can't watch it on YouTube. Next, he was on the iPad, playing, something, and I had to say, no form of this brand or IP, really, now known, ever developed. And
then he walked out with the T-shirt. You're like, take off that T-shirt.